All right, it is 10 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started by calling the roll. Senator Basham.
Present.
Regent Brinkley. I believe he's with us. I am here. Senator Kanzler. Senator Cato.
Present.
Senator Crow. Senator Foster.
Present.
Senator Gilbert is not with us today. Senator Hopwood.
Yes, sir.
Senator Inglis.
Present.
Senator Johnson is not with us. Senator Jones.
Present.
Senator Moran.
Present.
Senator Pritchard had an away message as well this morning. Senator Purdy.
Present.
Senator Roberson.
Present.
Senator Salmon.
Present.
Megan is not with us. Senator Thomas. Senator Vanderpool.
Present.
Senator Vincent.
Present.
And Senator Walker. And she is also out for fall break. So, thank you. Next, we will move to approve the agenda for today's meeting. I'd like to approve that by unanimous consent. Any objections? We'll consider that approved. Next, moving on to the approval of our prior monthly meeting minutes from our September meeting. I would also like to accept those by unanimous consent unless there are any objections. Wonderful. We'll consider those to be approved as well. And then next, I'll turn it over to Senator Vincent for our Christopher Ware Staff Star Award presentations.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. As always, I like to kind of talk about the Christopher Ware Staff Star Award. It's more than just a certificate. It's taking time to recognize the outstanding staff members around campus who made a difference. So many of us have stepped up, taken on additional responsibilities, worked through a pandemic, and continued to serve our students and colleagues. This award is a small token of our appreciation for all the hard work that is being done across campus. With that being said, I would like to introduce our first award to Millie Glessner. Millie is the manager of the dental clinic here at WKU. Here to speak on her behalf is Dr. Joseph Evans, the program director of dental hygiene and professor.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Millie Glessner is just such an important part of our program on a daily basis. She's an extremely important individual in the dental hygiene program who routinely goes above and beyond to help students, faculty, and patients on a daily basis. She always arrives with a positive attitude and a mentality that makes sure everyone has what is needed in an organized fashion. Her dedication to our students is routinely noticed and greatly appreciated each day. Millie makes sure to have patients assigned and scheduled for our students, while also collecting all fees for services rendered. Millie's office is always inundated with students. I mean, every day there's just students just piling in there, just question after question after question. And she is such a key asset in keeping the clinical component of our program running in a smooth and extremely efficient manner. Students, faculty, and staff have nothing but positive things to say about what Millie provides on a daily basis. No matter how much is asked of her, she routinely strives to make sure everyone has what is needed and will do whatever it takes to help those in need. Millie is a pleasant individual, very personable, and she represents the spirit of WKU on a daily basis. Her positive demeanor, willingness to go above and beyond, and dedication to the success of this program is not going unnoticed and is greatly appreciated by everyone. Thank you, Millie, for all that you do for us. We're so thankful to have you.
Millie. Congratulations.
Our next award goes to Jennifer Anderson. Jennifer is the coordinator of advising and student services in the Ogden College Dean's Office. Here to speak on her behalf is the Dean of Ogden College, Dr. David Brown.
Good morning. So I have to say that I'm very lucky in Ogden College. We have a large college, probably one of the most complex on campus. We have everything from an 800-acre farm, a 1,600-acre nature preserve, to laboratories that befuddle the mind with equipment that blinks, winks, whistles, and does everything else. It's a complex organization. I won't say that all the staff are incredible. We could not be here and do the things we do without. I'm very fortunate indeed that in my office I have staff who are just going above and beyond every day. Jennifer Anderson is one big example. Her job is nominally as student success coordinator, but it does not stop there. She is answering questions for department chairs, for faculty, about advising, about outreach, about forms, about everything. And she always answers with a smile. She's taken on a huge role in terms of recruiting in the last years. And so Jennifer has been every which way throughout this state and into neighboring states in the last few weeks, dedicated to recruiting students, keeping WKU strong. I'm grateful to her for her sharing her knowledge, not only about things that go on in the dean's office, but for students around the campus. I'm grateful that she stepped up when we needed a director for our LLC in the engineering and applied sciences. I couldn't think of a better staff person to have interacting with our students, with our departments, being one of the public faces of our college than Jennifer Anderson.
And our next award goes to Wendy DeCroy. Wendy is the budget coordinator in the Ogden College of Business. And speaking on her behalf again is Dr. David Brown. Works out perfect.
All right, I look like I got greedy this time. Hopefully it's not the last. So I've already told you about how complex Ogden College is. Well, as you can imagine, that comes with complex finances. The farm has its own string of budget accounts. Every lab has immense inventories of equipment that must be purchased and tracked through. We have more accounts, I'm sure, than any of the other academic colleges, and possibly as many accounts as anywhere on campus. And Wendy handles them gracefully. In addition, we've had some good fortune, and we've doubled our grant funding in the past year. So doubling funding means what? Double the finances to take care of. And are we being broadcast? Well, okay, I'll just say, Ogden's College of Science and Engineering faculty are wonderful researchers and very easy to work with, I'm sure. So Wendy has done a great job of always handling that with diplomacy, aplomb, and pure grace. She's helped me settle into the office over the past year. She's been there when we've transitioned our administrative assistant for the college. She keeps an eye on us during our leadership meetings, and just another wonderful member of the team. So I'm grateful to have Wendy DeCroy.
2, 3.
Don't let me.
Thank you all. Thank you guys for coming. And don't forget, if you have any nominations you want to submit, go to our website. You can submit those names. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tanya. And next on our agenda, we have our guest presenters from Human Resources. So we have Wade Pinkard and Michaela Daniel here with us to discuss our employee benefits and our open enrollment for 2023. So thank you all for joining us, and I'll turn the floor over to you all.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Michaela, HR specialist here at Western. And Wade, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, good morning, Wade Pinkard, Employee Wellness and Benefits Manager.
Yeah, so we're super excited to be here today to talk to you about open enrollment and benefits. So a little bit about what we're going to cover this morning. We're really just going to start with the basics and explain kind of how the health plan works here. We're going to introduce the new year for the Employee Wellness Program, our Top Life Pledge. We'll go over benefits open enrollment, which is coming right up. What's changing this year, what's not changing this year, some ways that you can prepare to make your elections during open enrollment, some advice with that, and then we'll have time for questions at the end as well. So how the health plan works here at Western, our health plan is self-funded. So this means that the premiums that we pay, both Western share and employee share, is what funds our plan's expenses. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield is our administrative servicer for this, right? So this means that WKU assumes risks of healthcare expenses for the employees. We are the insurer, being self-funded plan. This has a lot of benefits. One of those is being flexibility in designing our benefit plans. This allows us to kind of craft our plans differently than if it was fully insured by Blue Cross. So we get some flexibility with that. This also means that money is only paid out as expenses are accumulated. So this means that we have the opportunity to build up a reserve in years where expenses are lower. So that reserve is great to have, and it can be used to offset expenses when expenses exceed revenue. So those are really the big benefits of having that self-funded plan that we have here. And it also helps us to avoid paying premium taxes, and it saves us a lot of money, as you can see. So that's a little bit about kind of the health plan itself, and we wanted to go on and talk about our employee wellness program here. So this is our Top Life Pledge, and it just started October 1st, 2022, and it runs until September 1st, 2023. So with the Top Life Pledge, this is the pledge that employees can take, basically saying that you're gonna get some points and pursue a healthy lifestyle, and it helps decrease your premiums that you pay, which is a great benefit to everyone here. But in order to successfully fulfill the Top Life Pledge, all eligible employees that are in it and their covered partner, covered spouse, must earn 5,000 vitality points by September 1st, 2023. And you can earn those points all sorts of different ways, by doing screenings, exercise classes, all sorts of stuff to earn those points. Each person would need to earn those 5,000 points, and then just to complete the Vitality Health Review online by December 16th, 2022. So that's the health wellness program year runs. And now we're going to get into the moment everyone's been waiting for, open enrollment, which is coming right up. So I'm going to let Wade talk about that for us.
Yes, well, good morning, everyone, and let me just say up front that, or share with you up front that last summer, I had a cervical surgery, and as a result, one of my vocal cords was permanently paralyzed. So this is all I've got in terms of a voice. I think my wife slipped the doctor a little extra money. I haven't gotten any evidence of that yet. So anyway, at any time you don't understand something I said or can't hear me, please don't hesitate to let me know, okay? And if my voice completely gives way, and it does at times, Kayla's gonna jump in and bail me out, okay? Okay, so a little bit about open enrollment. So open enrollment starts October the 17th, goes 2 full weeks through Friday, October the 28th. So many of you, probably all of you, this is nothing you do every year, right? No real big changes are coming. Still using the same system that we've used in previous years, so it should be familiar to all of you. Okay, but just make a mental note of that. Put it on your calendar those 2 weeks, and if you could really do us a big favor, if you could try to do that the first week, it would be very, very helpful. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background, and notoriously, the majority of people, employees wait till the second week and the last day, you know. So we can just get some of you to help us in doing that earlier in the 2-week window. It'd be very appreciated. And we've got a staff of 3 in benefits, and one of those who's a star player is out on maternity leave. So if you feel really good with that benefits enrollment system in that 2-week window, we could use your help up in HR. So feel free to come up there. We got plenty for you to do. Okay, but limited resources is what I was trying to get at. And we get this question every year. You know, I don't want to make any changes to my benefits. I want to have the same benefits I had the previous year. I'm a new hire. I just completed open enrollment 2 weeks ago as a new hire. Do I have to do this again? Unfortunately, yes. Okay. Most of our benefits are what we call active elections. Okay, so you have to actually go in and make that election. Some of them are passive. If you don't, your prior year's benefits will pull forward. Okay, but many of them are active elections, and especially with the medical election. Okay? So if you don't want to make any changes, if you want to keep the same coverage, you still need to complete open enrollment. Some things that are changing and some things that are not changing. I think President Caboni mentioned in your last council meeting or Senate meeting, I'm sorry, that there's no change in premiums or employee contributions. So that's a good thing, right? So there's no increased cost. That's the 5th consecutive year where we have not had increase in our premiums. And in addition to what WKU puts in toward those costs, which is $677 a month per employee per month, they're adding in some one-time contributions in the amount of $1.5 million, so that we can keep those rates flat for another year. I don't think we will have the same story next year. Okay, so just kind of a heads up. There is a change in our vision, a very good change in our vision. So we've had one vision plan historically. There's no cost to you. It's a company pay for employees. Now, you cover your spouse and your children, you have a cost, but for the employee only, there's no cost to you. We were able to add a buy-up plan that has a lens package that's included in it. So if you have prescription lenses and you like progressive lenses and you like that tint on your glasses and the other features that you can add to, there's some benefits with this plan, the buy-up plan. So if you wear prescription glasses, we have a new option this year. I can show you I think in another slide, it's very, very reasonable, very, very affordable. This is one that I'm really excited about. Historically, as long as I've known, you all have been here much longer than I have, the company has provided $35,000 of basic life insurance at no cost to employees, right? But we were able to increase that to $50,000. So starting January, every employee has $50,000 of life insurance at no cost. Okay, so that's a big benefit. There is one change in the high deductible health plan. We call it the Saver 2800 or the Healthy Saver 2800. And the 2800 is just the amount of the deductible. Well, due to some federal regulations, specifically IRS regulations to comply with those, that deductible is increasing from 2,800 to 3,000. Okay? So there is a $200 increase in that deductible. That was not a decision of ours. It was that's a federal guideline. Okay. And lastly, and I'm sure all of you know, we can all appreciate we were awarded 5 additional holidays that we haven't had in the past. And my wife, she just thinks that when can I go to work at WKU? Because we get 23 paid holidays. I mean, that's amazing in my view. And almost a full month on top of vacation and accrued vacation and sick leave. You know, so in my view, the university is very generous with paid time off. Okay, so there are some things that you can do, and I would encourage you to do to prepare for open enrollment. Okay, so that you're making the best decision for you and your family's needs. Okay, one of those is just take a look at the benefits guide. Familiarize yourself with this guide. It's got an overview of all of our benefits. The updated 2023 benefits guide is posted online on the employee wellness and benefits page. You see it over here in the left-hand side of the menu is a printable version or a print-friendly version of that benefits guide. And then on that same page down in the lower right-hand corner is a electronic version or a flip book version of that, okay? And just wanted to give a shout out to the university marketing team that did the design and the updates to the benefits guide. They did an incredible job. So review that benefits guide so that you understand what your benefits offerings are. And there's one page that I will call out, and that's page 16. Okay? And the reason why I call this page out is because it gives you a really nice comparison, side-by-side comparison of these 3 plans. Okay, now all 3 plans, what they cover are exactly the same. The services that are covered are exactly the same. Where they differ is on the cost share structure. Okay, so the premiums, the deductible, the out-of-pocket max, those cost share structures are different. And you just want to, make sure that you're making an informed decision when you look at those. So, for example, and they come with different levels of funding. How do I get the mouse? Okay. So up here at the top, you'll notice with the HSA plan, there's for an employee only, just by choosing that plan, you're going to get $900 into an HSA account. And if you say yes to the wellness, you're going to get an additional $500. So that's $1,400 in total for the employee. That helps offset your deductible or lowers that deductible. And notice on the PPO plans, you don't get that initial, we call it seed money. You don't get that initial $900, but you do get the 500 if you say yes to the pledge, okay? And another real, line item that you want to look at is the deductible. You see here for the high deductible health plan, it's $3,000 for an individual, $5,100 for a family. And you can just compare that, across these three plans. The PPO 1100 has 1100 deductible for the employee, and the PPO 1600 has a $1,600 deductible. And then look at the bottom line. Okay, this is out-of-pocket max. So if worst case scenario, okay, you get run over by a truck on the way home, you have these enormous medical expenses. Worst case scenario, as an example, for the high deductible health plan, the most you're going to pay is $4,700 out of pocket. That's your safety net. Okay, so it's not like you're going to be millions or thousands and thousands of dollars in debt for medical expenses. Worst case scenario is $4,700. Now that's not even taking into account the money that was in that HSA account to offset that. So the way it works is you got for eligible medical and prescription expenses, first dollars, okay, you pay first dollars up until you meet the deductible. Once you hit your deductible, then it moves into co-insurance. Okay, for the high deductible health plan, that co-insurance is 15%. After you met your deductible, you're going to pay 15%. The health plan is going to pay 85%. Up until you continue with that, up until you hit the out-of-pocket max, and then the health plan pays at 100% beyond that. Does that make sense? Okay. Good page for you to review, be familiar with. Sorry, I belabored that a little too much, but very, very informative page in my view. Also, another thing that we could look at to help you make an informed decision is what your current benefits are. Will you be surprised? I mean, phone calls, questions, interactions that we have on a regular basis and say, what health plan are you on? I don't know. People just don't know. So review what your employee summary report and how you get to this employee summary report. When you go into the benefits portal, okay, up on the upper right-hand side of that page is two links. You can't see them, that's why I kind of expanded it here. Is your profile and then your benefits. If you click on that benefits link, you'll find a link that says employee benefits summary report. Okay? So just print that benefits summary report out, review it, make sure you understand it. You know what your current elections are. Okay, so look at the benefits guide, look at your employee benefits summary report. Another thing I would recommend that you look at, what did I do? Are y'all seeing that? No. The other thing, one real good predictor on what your future healthcare expenses are is your past expenses. Okay. History or your past is a good predictor of your future. So you can go into your Anthem account and after you log into your Anthem account, click on My Plans, and then under Medical, and it's going to show you your progress as an individual, how you have progressed toward meeting your deductible, and how you progress to meeting your out-of-pocket max. And it shows that for you, shows that for your entire family. Okay, so that's great to know. Kind of, hey, how much healthcare expenses did I have last year? That will help you decide which plan that will work best for you. Okay. Now, from an actuarial standpoint, there's not very little difference across those three plans. It's just, again, it's how the cost share is structured, okay? If you have a plan that has a high premium or higher premium, it's gonna have a lower deductible, and then vice versa. Okay, if you have a plan that has a lower premium, it's gonna have a higher deductible, okay? It's just cost share structure is the only difference, okay? Okay, and here I just wanted to call out that additional benefit, that vision plan. This is the benefit summary that you'll see during open enrollment. But in the middle of this benefit summary is the new benefits that are available on this buy-up plan. So if you have the standard scratch resistance coating, or you want that on your lenses, you will pay $17. Or on the previous plan, and it's still available, it's just the basic plan, there's no benefit, okay? These lens benefits. If you want the ultraviolet screening, you'll pay $15. If you want the solid or the gradient tint, you'll pay $17, etc. Okay, so if you wear prescription glasses, you may want to take a look at this. If you have employee only, can't see my box.
Can you minimize
Somebody help me out here. I'm technically challenged. So the base plan for an employee only, you pay no cost, right? If you wear prescription glasses, you think you generally get those lens features, and you got a lot of out-of-pocket expenses on those lens features, you may want to look at the buy-up plan, because the buy-up plan will cost you $1.82 a month, okay? For employee only, $7.62 for family, okay? So I believe that's a nice enhancement to our benefit offering this coming year. Okay, so you all know, I'm sure you've done this many times in the past, but just to get started, just go to the benefits portal. Okay, the easiest way to get to the benefits portal is through the employee wellness and benefits page. You see a link here to the benefits portal. To the right of that's also a link to the employee wellness portal. And then another link on the right-hand side to the employee assistance program. Okay, that's basically all that I had to share, very high level, but some thoughts may come to you. I'll be happy to answer any questions that we can. If we can't answer them on the spot, certainly take them back and get back with you. So, any questions? Yes.
Will you be having a benefits fair this year?
We have not planned a benefits fair. Good question. Like I mentioned earlier, key star players out on maternity leave. We're down to 2 people doing benefits, and it's just a lot of work in the background. We spent the last couple of months doing down to system level, communications, etc. There just wasn't resources to be able to pull that off. Let me ask you all a question. Very good question. Do you recall last year getting a mailer at home that was your benefits enrollment statement? It's had perforated on the edges. It was just a summary. It's a little different format than that employee benefits summary that's available online. It was in a little different format. We sent that to your home address. Do y'all recall getting that? How many of you opened it? Okay, and we're trying to decide the value of that, okay? So that was helpful. Okay, well, Jim, question?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Yes, sir. Is it possible to Is it possible to enroll before the 17th, make your elections before the 17th?
Unfortunately, no, the system won't go live. It's actually in a testing environment right now. We've been testing as recent as yesterday. We've still got a little bit more work to do before it goes live, but the window right now is the 17th through the 28th.
Okay.
If you got some special needs, we can get you in a back door somehow.
Well, I thought it was funny you mentioned about getting run over by a truck. So.
And probably wasn't the best example, was it? But COVID is a good example. I've heard of some individuals having, not WKU, these are not WKU employees, but just read in literature, some individuals have been hospitalized for months with medical claims up in the near $1 million, COVID related. So that's the nice thing about having health insurance. You got that safety net, well, we're not gonna be millions in debt. So university may be, but
Is the early in the presentation, you had mentioned that the university is self-insured, and that adds a benefit because obviously that means there may be surplus left over money-wise. Is that what you're implying? Is that something that's public knowledge, or is that?
it is public knowledge. That's a great question, Jim, and I was put a little time in putting the slide together and put it at the very end just in case. We didn't talk before this meeting came up. I did with you. We got a balance for them. We didn't talk. So yeah, being self-funded on the health plan, one of the big advantages of that is when we have years where our expenses were less than the fund additions or the contributions that was budgeted for the health plan, and that surplus is we keep, okay, and it goes into a reserve. Okay? If we were fully insured, trust me, Anthem wouldn't give us that money back, and they would also increase our premiums next year too. So that's one of the big advantages of being self-funded is when we do have years where our expenses are less than what we budgeted, and we keep that, goes into a reserve. And you can see the history, here's the last 5 years on how that's played out. So in 2018, the blue bar is what the reserve balance was, okay, at the end of 2018. The orange bar is the recommended or the targeted minimum reserve. And now that targeted or minimum reserve is a calculation that's done from our benefits consultant, and it includes 2 components, an IBNR and a case stabilization reserve. The IBNR is just simply, if we were to stop ceasing to operate our plan, if we were to move to fully insured, WKU no longer operates a health plan, there will be claims that continue to come in. Right now, there's this delay in claim. So the IBNR is incurred but not reported. So that's our liability to pay claims that haven't been fully processed yet. That's one component. The other component is a claims stabilization reserve. And that's just to account for the fluctuation in claims. As you can imagine, health claims are very volatile. And Tanya can tell you, the variation in claims and what's projected, actual, they're just very hard to predict. And that's to have a claim stabilization reserve in those bad years when expenses far exceeded what we budgeted, we can pull from those reserves. And that's what's allowed us. Here's the real example. This is our data of how we've been able to keep premiums flat for the past 5 years because we've pulled from that reserve. Okay. So in 2018, So at the end of the calendar year, the reserve balance was a little over 5 million. The targeted reserve was 4.2 million, so we had a little surplus. A little surplus went into the reserve. You see in 2019, we had more surplus. We're doing great. 2020, gosh, we got up 7.3 million in reserve. We were doing phenomenal. 2021, those reserves decreased. We didn't quite budget, 2022, we're right now planning to be about even, just slightly below what the targeted reserve is. And then 2023, you can see, we're really pulling from that reserve. In fact, our reserve is significantly less than our target at the end of 2023. So that's why I made that's why the last two are kind of shaded, because those are projections. We don't have the actual spend yet, but that's what we're projected to do. So that's why I made the statement earlier that next year I don't think we'll have the same story. I think we're going to have to make some adjustments.
So that, I'm sorry.
To answer your question,
Yes,
Jim,
sir. And that 1.5 million influx, was that just a one-time?
for calendar year 2023, it was the one time, and that 1.5 million budget surplus that the university's putting in is included in those numbers.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's what I was
If
gonna
we didn't
ask.
have that 1.5 million, that bar on the left would be not so pretty. Yeah. Tom, did you have a question?
Actually, he
Okay,
answered it.
so-
I was curious if the 1.5 million was already
Yeah,
calculated in that.
1.5 million
reserve.
is included in that. Yeah. Is that helpful? So that's a concept I really would like everybody across the campus to understand, this self-funded versus being fully insured. So whose health plan is it? You have a checkbook at home? Do your spouse, maybe your kids spend from that same account? Same concept. We have a health plan checkbook. We all spend from it. It's in all of our, and if we spend more than what we have in that account, then we got to make that up. Okay. So it's just in all of our best interest is to use our healthcare dollars wisely, because we're all in this together, right? Yeah. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
If there's other staff members that are anything like me, they're going to wait until the last minute to complete their 5,000 vitality points, right? So is that a hard deadline? And for the penalty, what is the penalty? How much does your insurance increase by if you cannot complete those 5,000?
It is a hard deadline to the extent that there's extenuating circumstances. Okay, now if you're hospitalized, for a big part of the year, as an example, we can work with you. But other than extenuating circumstances, it's a hard deadline because we get these reports from Vitality on who met the program requirements and who didn't. So we built in about a 2-week window. So before we start, because some things have a lag, right? Especially screenings. You go on campus, get your screening for that data to be transferred from Graves Gilbert to Vitality and load into your account, and you see your points. Take some time. They send a file on a weekly basis, not every day. So we built in some window for data to process. So that gets us about mid-September. Then we start bumping up against payroll deadlines in order to get the deductions inputted into the system before the payroll deadlines. So there's rationale and reasoning for that September 1 date. If it's an employee only, and let me mention up front, so at the beginning of the year, if it's employee only coverage, for the high deductible plan, you're giving $1,400 into an HSA account. and you're, got $15 a month off of your premium, so it's $180 a year that, by you accepting the pledge, okay? So come October, you did your Vitality Health Review, you did your first, but you didn't earn your 5,000 points by September 1 on employee only. Your premiums are gonna go up $60 a month for October, November, and December, 3 months. 60 times 3 is 180. That's your premium reductions that you were awarded for the whole year. So we're just taking that back. We can't go out and take it off that HSA account. So we'll give it to you up front. If you don't follow through, we can take it back by premium increases. That makes sense? So it's really not like you're losing anything. So we're just taking back what we gave you at the beginning of the year. And if any of you study behavioral economics, I didn't. I wasn't familiar with this concept, but it's called loss aversion. Okay. And what we get some odds in here, and what basically what that says is that we of something of same value, we value that more if we got it in our hand than what we would if we was awarded down the road. Okay, so in other words, if we give you that money up front, it's now yours. You don't want to lose it. That's more effective at getting you to follow through, making behavior change, engaging in the program, than saying, do these things, and then we're going to give you the award at the end. And it's very effective, but it does feel kind of punitive at October, doesn't it? If you didn't hit that 5,000 points. Yeah, I understand.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Last year on the Vitality, if you had so many points from the year before, they gave you 10% or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly.
You're right.
Are they gonna do the same thing?
Yes, they refer to those as kickstart points, and that occurs every year. So whatever your total was in the previous year, 10% of those are going to roll over to the next year, every year. Okay, so you at least started out 500 points from the get-go, right? If you got your 5,000 in,
Yes, sir.
now not everybody may not have 500 points. And kind of give you a number that's a little over 100, employees. In the big scheme of things, it's not a large number of employees.
Question?
So I just want to clarify from my brain. So if you have 5,000, you get 5,000 or more, you get at least 10% of the 5,000.
Will carry forward to the
Carry
next
forward.
year. Yeah,
Okay.
so you'll start out, well, the new program year started 10/1. So if you were to log into your account today and you haven't done anything, completed any activities, you should see a minimum of 500 points if you earned the 5,000 in the previous year. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that kind of the motivation, like, because if you get above your 5,000 points, there's no extra benefit other than more points being rolled over to the next year?
I'm not sure if that was their full intention, but it just Vitality's design and their system wasn't a decision of ours. It's just a rule they have built into their configuration that carries.
Because there's not any extra
all of
benefit
their
to earn more points, right?
Other than your improved health. That's what we all should be.
Well, I mean, like, because used to at the bar, like, I could go get the screening and then I got on my points and I didn't have to do anything else. Now, I gotta do more,
Yeah.
which I'm doing on my own anyway, which is, but I'm just saying, the bar keeps going up, but there's no benefit.
Get gold status and platinum status.
Oh, I know.
Those are exciting.
I mean, you don't get a sticker for it. But I mean,
Very, very, very good questions.
Wade, go ahead.
One quick question. So how are you guys communicating this to our staff members? We will have this recording on our webpage on YouTube. This was a great presentation. I'm sure a lot of people were not able to attend. Because I wasn't even aware of the employee summary report that was on mean, that would probably save questions from you guys since you're a staff of two right now. So just it's more communication out there, just letting staff members know what's available.
Communications is key. And we have a more detailed communication schedule for next week.
Okay.
And we will go through a couple iterations, but I'll go back and review it and make sure that that's highlighted, that employee benefits.
Yeah, I think that was great because we used to get them, in paper form. So I think it would be interesting for staff members to know that. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Good.
And actually, I have a couple of questions. One was one that we received via email to Staff Senate, and someone was asking, they noticed that there was that federally mandated $200 increase on the high deductible plan, and they noticed that the amount contributed to that HSA did not increase by the same amount, by the $200. And so I didn't know if I assume I know the answer to that question on why that increase wasn't there on the HSA, but wanted to pitch that to you all.
Well, whatever our employee wellness incentive is, we have to keep that consistent across all three plans. And I can't recall all the specific discussions within our discussions within our benefits committee. It was decided not increase that.
Yeah. Another question, and this may be something to take away and to discuss in benefits committee. I'm not sure, but we've had some staff members express some disappointment that the Preston Center actually increased their fees this year, and they went away from a graduated based on your salary fee to a flat fee for if you'd like to use the Preston Center as a faculty or staff member. And I didn't know if there had ever been any discussion. It seems like from those numbers, the healthier we are, of course, that means less is going to come out of that checkbook account that we all share. And so I didn't know if there had been any discussion about potentially offering kind of a discount to the Preston Center to encourage usage of that, or potentially usage of the Preston Center as part of the vitality points and being able to check in, and if you had so many check-ins at the Preston Center. So just didn't know if there had been any discussions around how we could utilize the Preston Center in the benefits conversation.
Yeah, excellent question. If you downloaded the Vitality app, there's a feature within that app that's called, I think it's called Check-in. And we have loaded that app with every fitness facility in this area. So if you get within 50 feet of one of those facilities on that app, all you gotta do is press Check-in, and you are within that geographical circle. I forgot how big it is, but you're at that gym for more than 30 minutes, that's going to automatically award you points. Okay, you don't have to do anything. So if you are a regular gym user, maybe, and the points are not, enormous amounts of points. If you go to a gym on a regular basis, it's real simple. As you go in, just open your house up, but check in, you stay there 30 minutes, you're going to get points. Okay? So that's one way. Preston Center, BAC, Dome Fitness, wherever your facility of choice is. The other thing around the Preston Center, I think I'm on my 11th year here. Every year we have discussions around the Preston Center and making that available to faculty and staff. Okay, there's a couple of challenges with that. Now there's new leadership there, new leadership in HR, new leadership all the way up to the president. So I'm not, it may be different conversations that we've had in past years, but I'm speaking to the past. The challenges have been cost. Okay, Preston Center obviously wants membership dues for faculty and staff that use the facility. So those costs would come back to the health plan. Okay, not a good year to be adding costs to our health plan, right? You've seen the graph there. So we got, those costs have to come from somewhere. Discussions I've been involved with is those costs come back to the health plan. Now, we can find funds outside the health plan to pay for those memberships. Maybe we can get somewhere. The other barrier that we ran into was tax implications. Because the Preston Center has memberships available to the community, then that is a taxable benefit to an employee. So if you get membership there, you're gonna get taxed. So the challenges with implementing that, you know, we ran into some barriers at the time. So, but it's come up a number of times, but we just haven't been successful getting anywhere with it.
Sure. And so, to your knowledge, that taxable benefit element is because we offer that out to the community as a service.
Correct. Yeah. Now, if it was free to all employees, faculty and staff, and it wasn't available to the community, my understanding of the tax law is that that would not be a tax. Yes, ma'am. My voice is giving
Just
out over here.
benefit wise, have there ever been any discussions? Because I think that you don't necessarily have to be a member of Preston. We have a beautiful campus and everybody can get outside and walk. Any discussion on maybe adding an extra 30 minutes to our workday for those that have children at home, you know, to just get out, walk the campus, or, you know, kind of be included in our workday as a benefit?
I believe the College of Health, or interviewing College of Health users, I believe they're doing a pilot program this semester on that, as allowing them faculty and staff flex time for wellness activities that are much broader than just, you know, walking. So there's some efforts across campus. In my past life, before I came here, I was involved with managing a fitness center that reached 123,000 employees across 6 states, US. And we did a fitness center subsidy. So it doesn't matter where you do your exercise, that you uploaded documentation that supported that, you got a subsidy to help offset, you know, those expenses. Now, there are some that have an opinion here on campus that it's not a cost barrier. If we made it, the Preston Center was made available at no cost to employees, that wouldn't increase utilization. Okay? It's not a cost issue. And that philosophy, that position was based on prior rate structure. Now, I heard someone say that's changed recently. So it may be a different scenario today, but there's just different views and opinions. If you made it free, that would actually effectively get more employees to be physically active, or are you just subsidizing those that are already exercising? You know, so, you know, you gotta, it's a good point. I don't know the answer to it, but it's a good point.
The question came in on the YouTube live stream about if there was, if there would be points for the COVID booster this cycle.
There is.
And looking at how it looks like 250 points, that's how.
I think that's correct. Yeah. But the bonus points, you know, what was it, 2,225? Somebody had me with the COVID vaccine bonus points. That's a one-time award. It's still available if you've never uploaded your documentation that you've been fully vaccinated and gotten it. You can still do that. But if you've reported it the previous 2 years, then that's not an option.
Thank you.
I think the only other question I had, you mentioned lens benefits at IO and kind of talking through like eyeglass lenses. Is there a contact lens increased benefit there as well over the base plan, or is it really just more beneficial for those that are
Spectrum lenses.
Okay?
Yeah, not prescription. I meant
As someone who is blind without my contacts, yeah, I had to ask. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for your
Thank
time.
you
We
for
greatly
having
appreciate
us. October 17th through the 28th. If I bump into you across campus, I don't speak, or I just look mad. It's a stressful 2 weeks. Have a good day.
Thank you. All right. With that, we will move on to the next section on our agenda, which is Officer Committee and Staff Regent reports. Regent Brinkley, to my knowledge, has not submitted a report yet, so we will look for that from him. Typically, that is something he will send us via email if he does have a report. Communications, Senator Vincent.
I have no report.
All right. Treasurer, Senator Purdy.
ENG index starting and ending balance is $1,462.40. The Senate Excellence Fund starting balance $1,480.64. Additions 230. Balance to $1,710.67. The book scholarship account starting balance is $1,648.97. Disbursements was $138.77, and the ending balance is $1,510.24.
Thank you. Did not have a technology report from Senator Gilbert. Also did not have a report for Senator Johnson for the secretary role. Vice Chair Basham.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So the workforce committee did not meet this month. Our members' calendar invite for our next meeting. Then for the vice chair role, there were several meetings for the BEC. I think Brian and Jason and I would all repeat ourselves to point out the BEC's made a recommendation for the 2% pool that was designated by the Board of Regents. That recommendation is a flat 2%. So there wouldn't, to be clear, that's just a flat 2% with the rules that were set up for that money. So it would exclude grant funded positions and exclude revenue dependent positions. And then there is the date qualification for August 15th, 2022. So it would only apply to positions or employees that were employed before that date. That specific range was a request from the faculty side to set it up so that it would exclude individuals that were hired at current market rate. So the VC agreed with that, and that recommendation's been passed on. We've also, go ahead.
Could you repeat that, what you said about the 2%?
Okay, the BEC, the Grant Budget Executive Committee, has made a recommendation that the 2% compensation pool that was approved by the Board of Regents, we were tasked with deciding how that distribution might happen. And the BEC has made the recommendation that it would be a flat 2% that would apply to. So if I was an employee who was E&G funded and I had been here from, if I started on January 1st, 2022, I would be eligible for that. If I started on, I think, like say August 18th, 2022, and I was still E&G funded, I would not be eligible. If I was a grant employee, not eligible. If I was a revenue dependent employee, not eligible for that E&G money. How grants are set up and how they allow compensation when the rest of the university does, I'm not an expert on. But so I think in my report, I don't want to comment on that because I'm not an expert on that. But that, I think if you're a grant employee, that's something you should check in with your department head about. Now,
Can we, I know not in this section.
it's okay.
Can we start having a conversation about grant funding? Because we are getting left out with some of it. And I understand how the grants work. I do understand how grants work. But even when it gets approved by the federal government, we're still not getting that salary. So I'm just trying to figure out, because the excuse we're getting is it's the university, so I'm just trying to figure out who is it that is having these discussions or leaving us out of these discussions with money that's already approved and the university already has.
So this is not my report as part of the vice chair. This is what my experience is and what my non-expert point of view and what I think is going to happen is that when other employees on campus, E&G employees, are designated a 2% pay increase, that will allow grant employees that I think most grants, and if anybody's an expert on it, feel free to chime in. Grants are required to include a salary increase, but it's only distributed when the rest of campus has one. So if we were to have a year where no E&G increase occurred, grants wouldn't have one. But and if it was over, I think 3%, that there isn't extra money for that. But in a 2% scenario, grants should already be funded for that salary increase. That's what I think, but that's not knowledge from the BEC process. That's from our grant employees.
So the 2% that you're talking about something different than what they usually maybe award at the beginning of the year?
It is that same pool. So like last year we did, it was a 2% pool last year, and the election then was 1.5% kind of across the board for the same category of E&G employees that started before a certain date, and then 0.5% to address compression. So there's a date associated with that too that I don't remember. So very, very similar, just different year of money.
And I believe that 2% is from budgeted salary, which would have been E&G.
Correct. Yes. Correct.
That's where that salary pool typically comes from.
Thank you.
Yep. Very, very valid concern.
Oh, no, yeah. There are very few grant employees on the Senate, so that voice has to get some attention because it represents quite a few people.
It does, and I think that the conversation is being missed between the people who have the approval to say yes, that these when this money comes in, and then the university they're not talking to each other, and the employees are the ones who send out.
Okay.
Because the money's here. That's different when it's not here. But the money's here. So what y'all doing with it, and why can't it be allocated to the employees? I'm just trying to figure that out.
I think those are fair questions to get answers to. Yeah. Additionally, the BC work has continued. There's an ad hoc committee working on, as part of the suggestion from the staff senate last year, brought forward the concept of some type of one-time payment that would not be directed towards a base salary, but would be some other type of one-time payment. Those conversations are still ongoing. We haven't focused in on a recommendation yet, but do want to point out that we're having those conversations. If anybody on the Senate or outside of the Senate has thoughts on it, feel free to share with Brian, myself, or Jason Kanzler, or the members on the BEC, or if you're out in YouTube land, any member of the Senate, you're welcome to have a conversation with them if they're in your building or department, and they will make sure that gets echoed. And that concludes my report.
All right. So again, Jordan already talked about the BEC, so I won't highlight that too much again, but yes, the 2% across the board that will be effective on January 1, and then still continuing that work. So Jordan and I are both on that subcommittee exploring the potential for that one-time payment to see if that is feasible and something that we can do. So we're certainly pushing as hard as we can to, if that is a possibility, we'd like to see that occur.
Just quick, you said that was your recommendation, but has it been approved, the 2% across the board?
It's to the discussion that we had yesterday in BEC, we felt that we were more than comfortable to share that we had made that 2% recommendation. I don't believe that is going to change at this point. The provost felt comfortable with us sharing that 2% thought that should be announced. He So yeah, I don't believe that is going to change in any way. Yes. Let's see. I just do want to highlight again and give some credit to the administration on the fact that they did absorb that healthcare cost increase this year. That was something that they committed to before we fully had the projection for what that increase needed to be. The committee actually would have recommended a cost share increase that employees would have also seen higher premiums. And so we really do kind of need to say thanks on that because we very well could have seen an increase on our monthly premiums and probably should have. So like Wade said, there's likely going to be, there's potential out there for an increase starting with that next cycle. So those conversations are going to happen with the benefits committee and trying to see how we can manage that in the best way to not have too much of a detrimental impact on staff. So we'll certainly advocate for that to be as painless as possible, but do know that that is a potential that is out there for future years. Let's see. I would also like to reiterate with my meeting with the president at the end of September, we talked significantly again about compensation. That will always be top of mind in those conversations and top of that agenda. So one of the things that he did reassure me, which I was very pleased to hear, that he is still really dedicated to that 2% pool in future budget years. That is something that he really wants to see, at least a 2% salary pool going forward, which is not something that we've had in the past. And so that is progress for sure. That commitment, even not knowing what those future projections might look like for the overall budget, but knowing that there is still that desire there from leadership to have that 2% salary pool exist. That may not always be an across the board scenario. BEC is always going to be in that conversation about how to distribute that salary pool in the best way possible. So as we firm up our employee evaluations and other mechanisms at the university, there could be other ways that that 2% is possibly handled and distributed to staff. So overall, though, very encouraged to hear that was reassuring for me that is still very important to the president. So wanted to share that with this group too. We did receive some anonymous comments. I'll note to anyone who has sent messages to our anonymous Dropbox on our website, there was an issue with those getting delivered to the staff senate. That issue's been resolved now. So it did not look like we had missed many of those anonymous messages. A couple of those were related to the incident at the top of the hill where there was a potential explosive device that was found that turned out to not be, thank goodness. So very thankful for that and that everyone was safe and the precautions were taken. There were some issues raised about communication surrounding that and where there were various text message numbers that were used to send out that messaging. And then the timing of those messages and the call to evacuate certain buildings, and sometimes those messages coming out that maybe a building had been evacuated, but not everybody was yet out of that building or had been notified that they needed to leave that building. So I did share that feedback with public affairs and those who are responsible for helping send out those communications and got good feedback from them on that. So that will be taken into consideration as they do their normal process of kind of an after action review on how to improve communication in those scenarios. One thing that we may possibly even share in either the comments or possibly in the minutes that was shared with me, I was not aware of it. There is a card that you can download on your phone. If you click on, it's found, I believe, within TopNet where you can register for those emergency messages. But there's a contact card for your phone. If you're an Apple or an Android device, and that will group all of those different text message numbers into a single thread under that contact card that is WKU emergency alert. So instead of getting 3 or 4 different text messages from different numbers, those would be consolidated so that it's just under the contact WKU emergency alert. So if you've not done that, you can go on TopNet, or you can go to wku.edu/emergency, and that should link you to TopNet, where you can sign up for those text message alerts, and you can download that card. It was very useful. I didn't know about it. I downloaded it. It was very easy. If you do it from your phone, it's one click, and it's going to pop up as a contact that you can save. So I would really encourage that. One of the reasons for those multiple text message numbers is speed, so that those messages can get sent out to the volume of people that we need to communicate with as quickly as possible. So if it was all going out through one number, it would take some time, and there would be some delays for sure. So we did get another question related to some concern over the scooters on campus. If we have a buildup of issues that are documented with those, then we will share those comments, but I don't know if we are quite at that point where it's become an issue. I think it's benefited students probably being a little less late to class, but we do want to watch if that becomes a big safety concern on campus, and that's something that we will want to monitor and share. And then I believe the other was just a question about parking near the top of the hill in those anonymous messages. And so I think that it's dependent on where. It was hard to determine exactly where that individual was talking about. I know where I park at the top of the hill. Around Cherry Hall, there are typically spots, several spots available in one of those lots. So that may be different based on someone where they're positioned in their office. So I'm not quite sure on that. But the last thing, and this is getting into announcements a little bit. So unless there are any questions, I'll end my report and I'm going to jump into announcements. Are there any questions for me? Okay.
I'm sorry, I do have another.
Yes,
question.
absolutely. Please do.
I got a question about the book scholarship.
Mhm.
And because it seems that when you approve it, it's kind of late, right before the semester. And a lot of times, like I'm in a graduate program, and you need that book like before the week of schools. Is it possible we can move it back a little bit, so at least it's 2 weeks before school starts and not right that Friday before school starts?
Rachel, did you?
Yeah, I've actually talked with Barnes and Noble, like that has been a problem. It's good for up to a year that you can use it, so.
Didn't know that part.
Perfect.
There you go. Thank you, Rachel.
There you go, thank you, Rachel.
That was something I was less knowledgeable on, so thank you. So moving on, well, actually, I don't want to skip other business. We didn't have any old business that I was aware of. Is there any new business?
What about those 2 emails that came through about, and I don't know when the appropriate time is to insert that, but there was 2 questions that were asked.
I think we asked Wade those questions. The one about the increase in our.
$200.
Yeah, he asked
I
Wade
did
about
ask Wade
that.
that question. Yeah, and I assume I believe that he essentially, his answer to that question was, and I'm paraphrasing, so please go back and watch the video on the full aspect, but that amount that we're contributing to that HSA is similar across the different plans. And so the $200 adjustment to the deductible was only federally mandated for the high deductible plan. And so I think with the other contributions the university's having to make this year, that's why they didn't increase the 200 on the high deductible. So one of the other questions that we got, I think, was about paid leave, and I don't think that's anything that we have a question or an answer for specifically today. I think that's something that can be worked on. We got a question about paid leave for circumstances similar to parental leave where maybe there might be care required for a family member or something of that nature, and if there is any possibility that we could explore that topic a little bit more.
It seemed like their concern was not absorbing all their vacation or sick time up front. But I wouldn't even know where to begin how to answer something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for a committee to discuss, and see if there is a potential. In those scenarios, that is a great example of work that we can do as staff senate, is take that back into the appropriate committee and say, okay, let's take a look at this. Is there something that should be revised within a WKU policy? And if so, the different committees, university-wide committees that we have representation on, that's usually where those conversations will start to take place. So that might end up being something that the overall gets wrapped up into a benefits committee, for example, is paid parental leave or leave policies typically are benefit of employment. So, yeah.
I think that's something the workforce committee can pick up because we have an upcoming meeting.
Okay, perfect. All right, is there any other new business? All right. The only announcement that I had, give me one moment to pull that back up because I was looking for that email, was you may have seen an email come out from Dr. Monica Burke about the President's Award for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And there is a staff award included in that this year. So do know that deadline for submitting that nomination is Friday, February 3rd of 2023. So announce that well in advance of that deadline, but please do. I encourage people to nominate individuals, and she attached those documents where you can do that. So are there any other announcements? Well, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.